Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cyber Monday edition of the St. Louis Arts Chamber of Commerce's virtual Holiday Art Expo. We are so excited to be here again on a Monday. Hopefully, everyone has had a chance to wander those virtual booths, order from our virtual restaurant row, check out some of the creative corner programming, and do some dances with some of our performance partners and all the wonderful stuff that's been out there on the schedule. So hopefully, you guys have been enjoying it. We are back again with an artist talk today. And so we are so excited to hear a little bit more directly from the artist. I'm Jessica, I'm your host for the day. And Sharon, I would love to just toss it to you. I love to have our artists actually introduce themselves because I just think it's so much better in your own words rather than me blabbering on for a bit.
Of course.
So tell us, who are you with and what do you, what kind of art do you do?
Okay, my name is Sharon Aach. And I've been doing art my whole life in some form or another, painting or sewing or sculpture, something. So I started my own business approximately 5 years ago, and it's called SaachArt. What I do is I reverse paint behind glass panels. So I guess you could call it painting backwards, instead of painting forwards like you would traditionally with a canvas. So in the case of glass, you paint your details first and you work backwards in layers to your final layers, your background.
Huh.
So if you're painting on a regular canvas, you start basically with your background and you kind of build forward. So I'm building backwards.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it's very addicting. Yeah, because different than painting traditionally, I don't turn the glass over. I leave it face down on my work surface, and I don't flip it over until I'm completely finished. So it's always kind of a surprise. I mean, I kind of know what's going on and I'm hoping it's going to look this way, but I really don't know until I flip it. So that's kind of very exciting and makes it addictive to me. I don't know. It's like opening a present sometimes.
Oh, that's so fun. I have never heard of that type of art. I mean, obviously I've seen your art, but how did you come across this type of art and how did you learn it?
Yeah. I basically just had heard of it through doing some art history, research. And it's not a new technique. It's a technique that's been around for quite some time. They used to do it in the early Renaissance periods. The first church windows were painted in this fashion. And then it kind of died off, and then a few artists picked it up a little bit, like Paul Klee and Wassily Kandinsky. Picasso actually did it for a little while, but nothing extensive. They just kind of like did a piece here or there. So the more I read about it, the more intrigued I became by it. So I just researched it and I taught myself how to do it. It took me about 2 years, I would say, to really learn the process and learn that I can do this and expect this outcome. So it's a lot of experimentation.
Oh, I can.
Yeah, so yeah, I just kind of taught myself and found out about it through doing research.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and
so cool.
it's not too commonly seen. You'll see it done maybe a lot like on plates, like smaller items, but doing it large scale like I do is not out there too much.
Right. Oh, that's very cool. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for introducing us to a new type of art that I literally never heard of before. That's amazing.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So I think I can guess the answer to this, but how did you come up with your business's name? Is there any fun story behind how you landed on that name?
Yeah, it has a little bit of a story. I mean, I've had 2 different names for my company. Started off as Divine Lines, and stuck with that for a while, and I'm just like, I'm not settling with this, you know. So um, actually, a friend of mine said, "Why don't you just do SaachArt?" I'm like, yeah, it's just my first initial S for
Yeah.
Sharon and my last name AACH. And I thought that's kind of catchy, and it has my name.
Mhm.
So yeah, it just kind of like stuck.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, it's always fun to hear like the stories behind the business. That's part of why we're here, which is really cool. Well, I know that this is a question that you get all the time, but where do you find inspiration for what you do, for what you're going to paint?
Yeah. I'm a big outdoors person, and I do a lot of hiking, biking, not so much in the winter, but more in the summertime when things are in bloom and beautiful. I do find some inspiration in the winter, though, also just basically shapes and forms.
Hmm.
So, what I do when I hike or I'm outside, I take my camera with me, and I do a lot of photographing of just things that stand out to me, you know, like a little flower or a little bug or, you know, something. And I take hundreds of photos and I develop those. And from those photos, I pick out the ones that really speak to me. And then I'll cut them up in pieces. And I'll take a piece from this picture, a piece from that picture, and I put them together and rearrange them from what's obvious to something that's not obvious.
Mm-hmm.
And I recreate um, my composition, you might say, from that piece. I make a collage from that.
Oh, that's very cool.
So then I bring those colors and those shapes and those textures into my paintings.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
basically nature inspires me, but I kind of have a twist on it. You know,
Yeah,
I take what's obvious and make it to the unsuspected.
that's very cool. So how long does it take you to go, maybe not from photographing all of the inspiration, but when you sit down and you start doing all the layers, how long does it usually take you to do a piece?
It depends on the complexity of it. Some of my paintings are very, very detailed, and they could take me up to a week to paint them. Some of them are more abstract with just large, like swishes of color and different texture, and those go pretty rapidly for me because I just kind of go with it. You know, I don't put a lot of thought into it. Those pieces are fun for me to do, and I would say they're more of a release for me than doing like a really detailed piece.
Mm-hmm.
But I enjoy doing both.
Okay.
I guess the thing about me is I'm very versatile in my art. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not tied into doing like it has to be this type of art. Like it has to be so abstract you don't know what it is, you know, or it can be so detailed. And I can go from doing something traditional to something contemporary. Yeah, I do a lot of commission work.
Mm-hmm.
So I have the ability to like talk to someone, go into their home, look at their surroundings, where they might want to put a piece. And we talk about things that they like, things that they might want to see in that room. What kind of colors do you want? How
Mm-hmm.
large do you want it? And I can pretty well go with whatever my client wants.
You could be
So
flexible.
I'm flexible. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And that's, you know, it keeps it more interesting that way because I don't do the same thing over and over, which I
Yeah,
get
that'd be
very
boring.
bored with.
I love it. Well, I have to ask, do you have a favorite piece that you've created?
Um, yeah, I do. I don't know that I can show it to you
Oh,
because
no, it's okay. It's okay.
my camera doesn't move.
No worries.
But it's one that represents springtime,
Mm,
and it's done more in pastels and more with a white background, and it's very simplistic.
gotcha.
Yeah, it's a minimalist
Mm,
painting, I guess you might say. But yeah, it's one of my favorites.
I love it. Did you sell it or do you still have it?
I still have it.
Is it for
Actually,
sale?
yes, yes.
There you go.
I just actually painted it. Um, probably about a month ago.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just kind of been in my head, and finally decided to do it. And when it was finished, I'm like, wow, I really like this. It's different from how I traditionally paint.
Mm.
So yeah, it's one of my favorites.
Oh, that's fun. I
Yeah.
love hearing the different answers to that because sometimes it does illuminate like something. I like that. Um, so what is the hardest part like about working with your chosen medium and the type of painting you do? Like I can imagine lots of things that are hard, but what do you think is the hardest?
Um, I would say just having an overall visualization of what you're doing before you start,
Hmm.
because I have to have that concept in my head because I'm starting with what you see
Hmm.
first, so I gotta have, no, okay, I want it to look kind of like this, so I start with my details. And that's probably the hardest part, is just conceptualizing what it's going to look like and how to place your layers.
Yeah, I can imagine it's really difficult.
Yeah, it can get complicated,
Yeah,
especially if I'm doing something that's geometrical.
right.
Yeah, that has lots of layers behind other pieces. It can get a little mind boggling.
Yeah, that does
But
kind of,
for the most part, it comes pretty natural to me. I mean, now that I've learned how to do it, and
mhm.
I, I mean, I got it. It comes natural. But I would say that was the hardest part, was just learning to do things in reverse.
Mhm. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, the Arts Chamber is here to support artists of all kinds, but
Hmm.
also in the idea that they are small business owners themselves and they need support just like all of our mom and pop shops. And so people forget that artists are small business owners. So we like to highlight that. And to that end, what do you wish people knew about the business of your art?
I guess I wish they knew more about that. I do private home consultations and um, commission work. Um, Basically that, yeah. And I think also I like to encourage people to, like, the message I like to give with my art. I like to encourage people to look through superficial surfaces to what
Mm,
lies below, to find the hidden beauty in things, whether it be in people or objects or situations. That glass that I paint on represents that surface. We all see it superficially, but not everyone takes the time to look below that surface and see what's really under there, you know? So that's kind of what the takeaway message. I like to call my paintings the windows to my soul,
mm,
because
that-
I'm letting you look through that window into inside of me.
yeah, that's wonderful. I love
So
that.
yeah. So not too many people ask that question, that they get that in depth of an answer, but that's kind of like what I would like for people to take away with them.
Well, that's what we're hoping in these more like kind of in-depth conversations to not just have like the 30-second trailer. We really want to showcase our artists, and I think this is a really great format to do that. And then we can do that because we are virtual and we can spend the
Right.
time. Well, I have one more question, and then we see if we have any others. But what did you start out painting knowing that it was going to be your business, and or did you just decide to start doing it and then it kind of turned into something?
Yeah, it just kind of turned into it. I really didn't have any idea that I was going to actually start a business.
Okay.
I have a 30 plus year medical history. I have my master's in anesthesia.
Oh.
So I retired from that about, oh my gosh, probably 18 years ago.
Hmm.
So my kids grew up and I raised my children. I stayed home to do that. And now they're both in college. And I knew as they were getting older that I had to find something for me to do again. And I didn't really want to go back into medicine.
Hmm.
So I started my painting again.
That's
And I just kind of started doing it as a hobby and kind of something for myself.
mhm.
And then the glass kind of happened. And then I just thought, I think I can do something with this.
So
So
what?
I
Go
started
ahead.
my business.
So what's the most surprising part about turning that art into a business for you?
The most surprising part, that people like my art. I guess. I mean, people are intrigued by my art,
Mhm.
which surprises me, but doesn't surprise me. I don't know what else.
No, that's good. That's
Just
good.
trying to I try not to create for people. I create for myself.
Mhm.
But if somebody has a vision, I can still create for them, but it still is part of me. So I guess that's kind of maybe a little surprise for me because I never thought I would be creating art for someone,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense.
So that's the
But
difference, I guess, between having a business, doing it. And, running a business is running a business. It's a small business and it's a lot of work and it's a lot of marketing and a lot of bookkeeping and a lot of inventory and plus painting your art, it's a lot.
it is.
And I think that kind of surprised me also because, I really didn't know much about business.
Mm.
Whereas now I do. But
Gotta learn on the fly though.
yeah, yeah,
There you go. Well,
yeah.
I have one question from our chat. Someone, because of your science background, your medical background, does that bring anything to your art?
Some people say that, and I see it sometimes also, I don't do it intentionally, but some people say I see a lot of anatomy or I see a lot of cellular things in your art that
Mhm.
might represent, a body organ or, a cell or a viral cell, something. Some people always say, I see that you have a medical background because I see this in your art. But I don't put it there. It just kind of happens.
It's somewhere in there and it just comes out.
Yeah, I guess just because I'm so detailed oriented, and when I get detailed, things get obviously smaller and more entwined. And I guess you could look at it as a cellular connection of some sort.
When you mentioned geometry earlier and like the planning things out and the detail oriented, that's where
Hmm.
my brain went with the science medical background, like that planning, that
Right,
kind of
right.
detail. Like,
Yeah, there's a lot of mathematics involved in that also,
yeah.
which, chemistry was my thing. I love biochem. So, yeah, that may be part of that
Well, that's
also.
very cool. I love hearing how people came to their art, and
Mhm.
like you said, everything kind of influences what you end up putting out into the world.
Yeah, I
And
think your whole life influences where you are right now or where I am right now with my artwork. I
exactly.
started out as a kid just drawing like stuff on our farm. I grew up on a farm in rural Illinois.
Mhm.
So I used to just love to take my little notebook and my pencils and go out wherever in the woods or whatever and start sketching. And, and then I started doing animals and
Mhm.
I think I drew pictures of all of my friends, my childhood friends. It just started as an evolving process, like you, everything you do leads to where you are. So it's like it's all come together for me right now because I'm old.
No, no, no. That's wonderful. That's so cool. Well, those are the end of my questions. That's all I've got
Okay.
for you today, Sharon.
Okay.
Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us and for all of us
Absolutely.
that have joined us via the live or watching on the replay. Thank you so much. Don't forget, go check out Sharon's reverse paintings in her virtual booth. And then her contact information will be in there as well. We thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Have a good one. Bye
You
bye.
too. Bye bye.